over 14 years of marketing, product development, and sales experience, working for major brands in the United States, the UK, and India, for agencies of various kinds in advertising, digital, software, pitching services, and building products and managing campaigns. He's worked for Fortune 500 brands like P&G, Walgreens, Toyota, Boeing, and many mid-market companies, as well as startups in the US, UK, and India, like Cab9, C Surgeries, Whoop in India, and Travelographer. He studied design thinking and new product development and design research from the renowned DAP School of Design, and is a proven problem solver problem solver who can use both analytical and intuitive approach to resolve ambiguity. Creative, entrepreneurial, and trained strategy-driven innovation is always willing to defend new ideas that can positively impact people. Thank you for joining us today. I think apart from that, he's also the workshop facilitator at the Head Start Network Foundation and also the founder of Honest Create. Thank you so much for making time off today and being amidst us. Over to you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Karthik, and thanks Manoj as well. That poster really made me look maybe 10 years younger. And it's amazing to also come and interact and do this for a lot of students, right? Usually, with Head Start, you mentioned that a lot of times we're doing it with early stage entrepreneurs, with little matured stage entrepreneurs, who are part of these accelerator programs. But it all starts really young, right? And students and the kind of ecosystem now it's built with colleges, with what IIIT is also doing. It really helps to build them into entrepreneurs right from college days. So this is really great, and I got to know that you have a pitch deck, also sort of a competition next week, and this gives us enough time today to actually prepare you. So whatever my ideas would be, I would actually try to give you some things that you can take away and use, and maybe improve your pitch deck, or just if you're really starting now, or if you want to have enough time to start afresh, you can do that too. So let's begin.
Sorry to interrupt. I think we have a pitch deck competition scheduled just after 1 week, so that's why we wanted you to talk now. And I think It would definitely be of immense use to them, and it's also part of their homework. So if they don't do this, they would not get the graduation certificate also.
Oh, really? Okay. So good luck to that. Now I know the colleges always try to do that, but I think being entrepreneurs and wanting to do this is a bigger drive, right? So I hope you go back, create your pitch deck, and maybe improve them by these learnings. Let me share the screen, and while Karthik gave a very good introduction, I would just want to also talk a little bit about my own experience, because you're all in colleges, right? So I just want to tell you, I hope you can see the screen, Manoj. Just let me know if there are any problems. Okay. So I, out of college, I didn't really know like what I have to build, or if I want to be an entrepreneur. Unlike a lot of you, I started off in advertising, and this was back in 2007 when I graduated from my college undergrad in Delhi. Then after 2-3 years of being in advertising, enjoying my time here, I was like, now I want to get serious and go and do my masters. And that's where I went to University of Cincinnati, and did my masters in marketing. So I did my MS in marketing, and the idea was why I chose that program and that city was Procter and Gamble is based out of Cincinnati. So there's a lot of marketing ecosystem, product development ecosystem, which is built in Cincinnati, because Procter and Gamble being such a big FMCG brand, so they obviously there's a lot of marketing agencies, design agencies, but then what I surprisingly found was a lot of product development, industrial design ecosystem also there. And that's where I felt that design has to be more than just making it look good, when I was doing that in advertising in my early days. So that's where I thought that, okay, now, I've figured the business side of things. I know maybe, how to, not a design like, myself, but I know how to, what a good design looked like. So presentation work is what I felt is I can do. I'm not a very good designer. I thought I'm not like, I can go into as a designer as a job, but presentation required that kind of business understanding as well as design. So I actually shamelessly use presentation to grow in my career, because nobody else was doing that for a living. When I joined the company, and worked in Chicago, so there I was the go-to person straight with the CEO. So I was working with a CEO of a company which has over 8,000 employees, right, worldwide. So I was like, okay, presentation design helped me get my first good job in US. And after that, I came to India. I've been part of the startup ecosystem. I've headed marketing and sales. Again, I've a lot of work that I did in India has been in B2B corporate brand building. So again, sales presentations and presentation was, literally, my 3-4 days out of a week I was doing just that. So that's when I realized, I cannot outsource this work. I have to do it myself. So why not, I always wanted to do something of my own, do this for a living. So that's where I started just creating presentations for a living. That's how my company, sorry, it's not, yeah. So that's how my company Honest Kit started. And, it's been about 18 months I started this. And, I really loved every day. And the part that I've loved the most is, working with a lot of entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, matured entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs, different stage of the company, and different sort of companies as well. What my learning has been that, I've been able to work with a lot of smart founders who are actually, raising money, and I've already raised money during, the last 18 months, majorly impacted by COVID, right? Whether it's a social app, whether it's, B2C. This is based out of Bangalore, pretty big out there. Recently did a Series B deck. Whether it's in, a gaming. So, what I was thinking was that, now that I know how to, blend business and design, I can use it across different sort of industries. So I've been lucky to work in different industries. There's not been maybe a couple of projects maybe similar, but then they've all been in different industries. But the process is pretty much the same. That's why I want to teach you that process today more than anything, because you'll get an idea, okay, how to structure your thoughts and everything. So I was telling you, like, different industries, and whether it's sales presentations or, investor presentations, whether it's a D2C brand. So I've been fortunate to work with B2B, a lot of platforms as well. And again, the idea is that it's same, right? How do you create a story? It's not about the design. Of course, design looks good. I always was into aesthetics when I started off in advertising too. But the value that I really wanted to create was that I can understand your business, and actually I can guide you by creating a story and the flow of the slides, because that's equally important, right? So any questions in between, feel free to ask. I mean, we can obviously leave some time in the end for questions, but feel free to ask in between as well and stop me. And a lot of work with Pepsi and brands like Diageo, with agencies like DDB. So everybody needed presentation for a different purpose, right? Somebody wanted to raise funds, somebody wanted to just pitch the idea, somebody is selling it to their prospective customers, someone wants to show what they've done, the case studies. They're all different kind of presentation. But honestly, uh, there's one thing I could have learned when I was in college and I didn't, was just creating presentation, because whatever job I did, a presentation was always required to be done. So this is a skill I would encourage everybody over here who's joining to inculcate and grow. And I hope this session will help you at least get started on that. A lot of these sessions that I take, workshops, Karthik also mentioned with Head Start, been very frequent, and different colleges as well, Great Lakes, IM. And the idea is that, it's about me also meeting a lot of entrepreneurs, right? You guys, are really smart people. You have some great ideas that will become, really helpful and impactful in the future. I won't say just become unicorn, because honestly, the term is glamorized a lot. I actually feel if you drive, if you give good value and make a product that is loved and is really make an impact and solving a big problem, all these terms, they will come right in your journey. So think about creating a good product. Of course, this session is for creating a pitch deck for your competition next week. But whenever you become entrepreneurs, don't think about raising funds, right? Think about also, what you are building, what product you are building. So with having said that, now I also, want to say, how do we structure the presentation, right? How can you go about starting to create a presentation? I know a lot of you would Google. There are a lot of models out there, and very good models out there on Google. Okay, I want to create a investor deck. Maybe, is there a template I can use? How can I see a good presentation looks like? There are a lot of things you can learn from Google, no doubt. And but just to structure your thoughts, just try to think on three aspects. The first one being, uh, just a second, Manoj, I'll just check once. I mean, are the switches all fine? It's all going
Yeah,
fine, right? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So the first part is, how are you gonna narrate the story? It's not about just using any template out there. There are a lot of templates out there, but but every story is different, right? Every idea is different, every story is different, and every execution is different. So the story is important. Like, what is that one underlying message or the theme of your deck, right? That's very important. The second part, which is actually different from design, and I would, really encourage all of you to do, and people who have already know the difference, actually they are one step ahead, they already know it, but the others would know today. So, visualizing is very different from designing, right? Visualizing is how can you reduce the effort to read on the slide? How can you construct the slide in a way that, a person sees it and gets it, right, in few seconds? But on the same hand, when you're designing, it's more about looking good and slick, right? That's also important, no doubt about it. But these are two different things, and a lot of times you can visualize well but may not design well, or maybe even design well but may not visualize well. But I would prioritize visualization over design. Try to do that. I'll maybe share some examples, you'll get to know how you can do that. So three constructs, you know one is content, the other is visualization, and the third is design. So try to see your pitch deck in these three aspects. I'll show you how you can go about seeing that. Any questions right now? Please feel free to ask. Cool. Then we'll start.
Yeah, there are no questions. So you can go.
Yeah, no issues. So just want to ask you guys, like, okay, content visualization design, I explained you, but let's do a quick sort of a poll, maybe next 10 seconds. If all of you can put in the chat, if you have to do one out of the three, what will you prioritize? Content, visualization, or design? What is that, prioritization in your head right now after I've told you? Some quick replies. Chandru says visualization, content, of course, design, Mansi, lovely. So I'm seeing a lot of content and visualization as well. So good to know that you see value in visualization. Design, of course, lovely. So I'm seeing sort of a 40-40-20 split, 40 visualization, 40 content, and maybe 20 design. So, okay, good to know. Interesting. So usually when I ask this, right, different formats, these are just two examples. Again, about the same size, 50 people. The story and visualization, like you see on the left, they're prioritized over design. And on the right side, when I asked this on LinkedIn once, quick poll, story and visualization, again, different audience and different mindset. So there's nothing right or wrong, but it's just about knowing how do you prioritize what. So that's what I intended to know. So let's dive in, right? Let's talk about story. I'll share an example with you because that's the best way to tell you, how can we do a story. So there are two ways to do a story. One is, you talk about the huge opportunity, uh, and this following example is a story about a huge opportunity in rural tech. Not sure how many of you are actually doing anything to do with rural or rural technology. Anybody doing anything there? Just a second, I'm not able to see the response on the screen. Got it. All of them. Okay, lovely. So let's talk about this example here, right? The company is called HESA. They recently raised funds, and they are doing something for the rural economy. This is how their pitch starts, right? It talks about the big markets straight up. There are 850 million villagers living in these many villages, right? And who remain widely left out and inaccessible. They don't have financial services, they don't have retail services, and there are reasons that they don't have that because a lot of brands are not able to go there, and there are a lot of the unviable unit economics. There are a lot of reasons for them to not go. So nobody's really serving them, right? While the mutual accessibility between brands and urban consumers are growing multifold in urban cities, as the years have passed on, there are a lot of brands, startups that are now, converging all the three: social, digital, and physical. That is building a lot of mutual accessibility between brands and consumers. But in villages, it's still like, one to many, one to few. The relationship is pretty much the same, right? It's based on touch and feel based buying. It's very relationship based. Selling only can be limited to one to few. There's no digital aspect as such there in terms of the rural commerce I'm talking, right? And that's where HESA comes in. It's connecting India to Bharat digitally, and it's sort of converging all the three: digital, social, physical, for the rural commerce. And Hesatis are actually their village level entrepreneurs. They've built a network of Hesatis to do the social selling. So this is how we introduce HESA, and then we're talking, what HESA is, right? This is on the concept level. This is on what actually that platform is, what it does. It's an integrated platform. It's a B2B marketplace at both ends. And, then we're talking about, the market sizing, the problem statement, and so on and so forth. So why I wanted to just show these slides is because, I took about 6-7 slides to come to HESA, right? Because the idea is if somebody doesn't get the gravity of the problem, they won't get the importance, right, of your product. So that is the reason you need to take your time to talk about your problem. A lot of times, there are people out there saying that, okay, do it in 10 slides, 15 slides is max, 20 slides is max. I would say, you know, and I completely believe that after doing a lot of pitch decks, actually the number of slides doesn't matter, right? It's more about, how easy the information is, how much they can understand with it. You might take the same amount of time in pitching for 10 slides or pitching for 25 slides, but then if the message is not coming out, it doesn't make a difference. So what I'll say is that unless, of course, in college you would have been told, Karthik or Manoj, any idea if there's a limitation on number of slides there? You guys are there? Is there anybody knows? Is there a limitation? If not, then even better. So I was just trying to tell you that don't worry about that. Once you'll see a lot of templates and out, you'll see, okay, 15 slides, 10 slides. Try to communicate each thing. But I'm not saying unnecessarily increase the number of slides. Every slide has to be important, right? It has to communicate the right thing. So there's another way to tell a story, right? I told you one story in terms of just the overall market opportunity. The other way to do the story is, use a persona to tell a story. I think this story a lot of you will relate to. And this time I won't speak, I'll just switch the slides and just have you consume the content yourself. I hope everybody is at least joining from the laptop so they can see what's going on, and you would be able to know what I'm doing here when I'm switching the slides. Okay, so let's start, and I'll just count maybe 3 and then change the slides. That's where we introduce the product now. You would have seen, we took a lot of slides to come to the product. See, the idea was that, it's the product about, having people follow their passion, right? Following passion is a very soft subject, right? A lot of investors may not even care unless they, it's a problem that they can relate to, but they may not care that it's a big enough problem, right? So that's why, the slide, there was an emotional aspect there. If you would have seen in the story, there was a lot of things that, we were talking there. Uh, so, the reason I was switching a little faster to Chandru is because I felt that, you don't need to read each and every word. You need to just get the main message out of the slide. And that's what I'm trying to get to, that the visualization part is, try to maybe, as I like to say it, the 3 seconds rule, because, if the slide doesn't really communicate the message in 3 seconds, then somebody who has, very low attention span, which a lot of people now do, including the prospects and investors, you want to at least communicate the key message really quick. They may want to read, give it time and read the details, but they should see the slide and get it. Okay, this is what you're talking in this slide. So that's what I meant by, visualization, that how can you reduce the effort to read. And one thing I'll encourage all of you to do is at least, the key slides where you are explaining the concept, you're explaining the model, you should actually draw the slides, like you play Pictionary. That's another thing you should take out from this workshop, that, draw the slides, that, explain it to somebody without putting a text there, that this is what I want to explain. This is my model. Draw some of the key slides, not all of the slides, but at least 4 5 the key slides you should try to draw, and then try to bring it out in the slide itself. So I'll show a couple of examples here. Like, this is a slide done by the founder. This is not done by us, but the idea of the founder was that they're selling biryani in Kolkata. They're a cloud kitchen brand. So what they want to tell to the investor is that, once you give us the money, we'll open, cloud kitchens, and we launch multiple brands throughout the day, so that the kitchen is utilized. So we're not just selling biryani in afternoon or dinner. We are also selling shakes or juices in the morning. We are selling snacks, or, chicken rolls or veg roll in the evening. So the idea is that they'll launch multiple brands. So, I mean, I explained to you, but the investor may not even care about reading everything, right? So that's where we created something like this, right? It's again a visual representation. It's something that is more likely to be remembered than something like this. So that was the idea, that, we actually wanted to show something that, they get immediately without even have to read so much. And it has an added message that it's also talking about a lot of the target audience that, they can cater to. So yeah, 25 slides maximum. I just read RR. What's your name? Not sure, but I think, yeah, 25 slide is also good. A lot of people try to do it in 10 slide. That's where the problem comes. So that's why I was saying that, maybe the number of slides, don't worry about too much on that. Another example of a visualization would be, and I think this slide, a lot of you might have, if you're doing a B2B sort of an idea, the adoption, where all your product will be relevant. So somebody talking like this and invest, this is again done by the founder. They wanted to say they are across a lot of industries, versus what we did was, we created this sort of, representation where it's clear that they are into these 4 industry verticals. It's clear that across these horizontals, but it's what's also being added in the slide, which is more important, is that the decision tree training will actually get better because of this. So that's what the key message is, right? So even if somebody sees that, they say, okay, fine, they get it. So that's what the 3 second rule is. Again, this is done by the founder, saying that there is no platform that connects celebrities and fans, but I have to read so much to understand that, versus again, this literally we just went back, made, on a piece of paper and then created something like this. Again, it's saying the same thing, that there's no platform that exists that connects digital fans and celebrities. So that's what I was trying to say, with the visualization. I would say the slides have to be self-explanatory if you're doing one deck, because, once they are so somebody has asked, do the slides have to be speaker dependent or self-explanatory? And I'm guessing when you're saying speaker dependent, are you saying the slides, used to sort of present while you're talking to somebody, right? Versus slides which are sent on email. So what I'll say is create for the version that you have to send on an email when you are not there to present. I think from that you will get the version that you'll have to present. So what I meant is that, what you have to present can be with even less text, but then always make for something that, you have to send on an email. That's where visualization is even more important. When you're pitching, you can still explain. And, honestly, I don't know if you noticed, but if I'm talking, either, you're hearing me or maybe visually you are seeing, but you can't do both. If I'm talking the same thing that's on the slide, I don't think so there's any point, right? So a person can either listen or they can just, read. It's very hard to do both together. So try not to make them read, but you can talk a lot of things and use visuals as a visual cue to make a better impact. Okay. Hope that answers your question. Just a second. Let me go back. So another, sometimes the team slide also has an opportunity to visualize. I mean, it's very rare that we have also done this, but sometimes, there is always a way to visualize this as well, because, here there are people from IIM, there are people who are heading big media groups in the country. Everybody knows about those media groups, but that is not coming out in this slide, again, done by the founder. So that is the reason we created, something like this. So two of the founders were actually part of the AVP group, and they came together to create Miviro, right? So again, there is a chance to visualize here, so we did it. So always try to do that. When you're writing bullet points, is there a way I can connect the whole story? So that always helps. Competition slide, doing something like this, which is, again, not telling a lot. And, when you design and not visualize, the problem is that you try to use visuals that can distract. Like this is again done by the founder. So the visual on the right is not really adding any value. When you're talking competition and it looks good. I'm not saying this slide is a very good example of a nicely designed slide, but it's not really saying anything, right? The competition, what the competition is, why you different, and why this visual here, right? So it's a little distracting, to be honest. So try to not distract in the key slides, and maybe, create a comparative matrix, and figure out two variables where you can map what you want to do versus what the competition is doing right now. So in this case, they were a employee monitoring software that monitors what employees do. So there are two variables here. One is that they can only monitor what they're doing, versus on the other axis, it's holistic solution, right? Doing more than just monitoring. And the other part is that, they use basic analytics versus the use of machine learning and AI. And then they map the competition, and then, we put where they are, and then there's some key things we can add there. What are the USPs on the right side? So again, try to just, when you're doing a competition slide, do it in a way that really tells them a bigger message. So this is actually a visualization for us, what we do for a living. I interview people and I give this exercise to them, that why don't you, visualize what we do, right? And this was done by somebody who was being interviewed, and I really like it a lot. It actually tells a lot about our business. So that's what I'm saying. So, you should try to do stuff that, you are doing, some key things that you're doing, and try to visualize those. There's a question by Yogita, Dr. Yogita Kastu. Hello, does the pitch deck necessarily have a P&L and other financial charts, or just the revenue growth year on year can be highlighted? Yeah, I don't think so. In the first version, you need to send the P&L. I mean, there are certain things you should put in the pitch deck, like, your projections in general, in terms of your key metrics, your GMV, your number of customers, your number of app installations in the next 2 years or 5 years. That is pretty much enough. The detail level, they can always ask you, and then you can get back to them. Financial charts, yes, I'll come to one. Maybe I'll show you. Maybe that a couple of slides are usually enough when you are raising your seed or even your pre-series A. When you are obviously raising series B and all, you need to talk a lot more stuff. So another question asked by Rajeshwari Ramachandran, your idea about adding logo and adding it in presentation slides. So wherever required, add it. Don't forcefully put it. A lot of times people try to forcefully put in logo. I think if 20 out of 20 slides, if the logo is there on 10 slides, it's usually more than enough. So some slides actually don't even have space for a logo. So it's very hard to then change the design just to put in logo. I usually don't put it in all the slides, especially when it's not required in some of the slides. They already know that what brand they're looking at. So it's not that every slide should have the logo. And what should be the flow of the pitch deck? So that's what I was telling you, right? The flow of the pitch deck, you start off with the problem. You talk about the solution, introduce your product, talk about the features of the product, then, what you're offering, maybe in 3-4 slides, talk about that. Then the next part should be, how you're going to acquire customers. So I'll maybe talk about some slides. I have a slide to tell what all should be part of your presentation. But there are 10 things that should be part of your presentation. It's all about just putting them in that nice flow. So the USP, and then you can talk about the rest of it. As person said that you can also put financial charts. That's what you need to talk after that, after the initial flow. So usually that much is enough. If you talk the problem, you talk the solution, the features, and some case studies. If you are a B2B sort of a client, talk about some case studies, talk about how you're going to grow in the next 2 years. Yeah, one mistake. What are the common mistakes that one can avoid in designing pitch decks? So that's what I just told, right? One thing is that focusing too much on design and not, focusing on the story. That's definitely one thing you should avoid. The other thing is when you're visualizing, you try to put 2 key messages together in one slide. So for example, if I'm talking about the growth of my company, and I'm also talking about sometimes people put the problem you are solving. They try to talk 2 key things in one slide. Try not to do that and force fit, because a person may not even get one message, or maybe even get one message, miss the other one. So that's the other part. And the third thing is unnecessarily don't distract. Sometimes even the logo distracts from the message. Sometimes even putting it extra visuals which are not adding value distract. So those kind of things you should avoid. And I'll share a few more when I'm talking. Okay. So yeah, coming to Dr. Yogita, about the numbers, right? So numbers are very important, of course, to put in the pitch deck, but it's not that you need a slide separately to talk about numbers. Here we have put a section on the right just to highlight, okay, because of the process, the breakdown time is actually coming down from 6 months to 3 months. So these kind of metrics you should put in your slides. And just using bigger font, the hierarchy of font is another thing that people don't follow. So coming back to what things should avoid, sometimes you'll put the important stuff and the not important one also in the same font size, the same font style. Try not to avoid that, because then the hierarchy of content here, it's important to know that 17% is English, right? So that's also another thing that's very important in the slide. What is the hierarchy of content? What do you want them first to look at, and then what do you want them to look at later after they've seen the key message? Some of the this is a very basic financial slide, and this is again for a company, a cloud kitchen company, but according to your own industry you can change it. But just these metrics are enough. You are here right now. So this is the second slide. The first slide is where you are, so have a traction slide put. The second slide, this is usually enough to send, right? What are the orders? Where are you growing in the next 2 years, 5 years? The unit economics and stuff like that. And then, of course, when you're raising funds, you can put that money, how you're splitting the funds, how you're raising, what amount you're raising, and everything. So Any questions so far? Please feel free to ask. And I'm gonna jump to the most important part of this workshop. That's the process. That what process you can take away, especially for the students next week who have a call, who gonna present. So that's what I want to just talk about a little. Question by Neeraj: should one stick with the rule of three while visualizing the pitch deck? I believe the rule of three means try to talk in, restrict your things to three things, right? And I use that a lot. So yes, I mean, if that's the one you're talking about, definitely you should. If you're talking about what I just spoke, that's also important, that if you can bring out the key message in 3 seconds or less. But yes, the rule of three is very important, and and there is, there's a lot of validation and science that why we should talk in threes. And I try to do that. Don't try to force it, of course. If you have to talk 6 things, don't try 3 things. But if you have to talk 4 things and you think one of it may not be important right now at this stage, can be talked later, try to do that in 3 things. So good question. So let's talk about process, right? You know that story is important, content is important, visualization is important, and design is important. But in the next 1 week, how will you break it down? Especially if you want to start afresh, if you have time. So, I mean, honestly, a good pitch deck for a student should take about 40 hours, right? 40 to 50 hours. Obviously, for a startup, on an average, we put 80 to 90 hours. But I'm saying if you can put those 40 hours, you can complete this process in the next 1 week. And not to pressurize you, you'll have other work and everything as well. But I'm just saying, if you really want to do a good pitch deck, try to put that much time as well. So in terms of the process, let's start with storyboarding, right? A format that I usually use and it has worked for me is I just, create an Excel sheet and create 2 columns largely. What is the key message of each slide? And what is the content that will go to support that slide? So the key message means what do you want an investor or maybe the prospect, whoever is looking at the deck, to get from that slide, versus what is the content that will support. So that key message is important. Okay, this slide I want them to know that we are pretty big, so you put those numbers there. I want them to know that our solution is the best in the market, so you put that kind of content. So try to just put the key message first, and then you put the content that supports. So something like this, and not doing straight on a PPT, will actually help you just focus on story and not worry about design at this stage. A lot of times what happens is you open the PPT, you take a template online, you start force fitting your content into it. So try not to do that. So yeah, I mean, this is how the flow is. Somebody asked about the flow. This is for a company called Doctors Bazaar. So the flow is that they talked about the company overview, the context, why they require, what makes their platform unique, additional services that are offered, the proprietary tech, and then creating a large online community, followed by the case studies and in their case the numbers, etc. So I mean, that's usually a good flow to follow. Then once you've shown a couple of people, okay, this is what my story is, I would like to go ahead with this. Take feedback from people by showing that Excel sheet, and then start visualizing it. Just start putting the content, and don't worry about design again at this stage. This is again a black and white version. It's more like a wireframe. Think of it like a wireframe. You're just putting the content there. That's why it looks very black, gray, white, because there's no effort to make it look good. The effort is, okay, the whole information should flow like this. And this is a very good sort of a version or a step where you can take this to people for feedback. Maybe at Excel sheet, people they may not read as much. People hate reading, right? But at this stage, they will get, okay, what you are doing. So try to take this version with people for their feedback, so that then you can design later. Design takes a lot more time to change and also to do. That's why this version you're just focusing on visualization. So here the focus is just on visualization. Okay, and then once this is good and people have said, okay, no, I like it, change this and that, and then you can then start putting in the colors, the images that you want to use, what colors you want to use, how do you want to represent. I think all that can come after this. So the problem with the templates out there is they straight away give you this, and then you have to force fit everything in it, and that's usually doesn't work if you want to build a story for your pitch deck. Okay, a couple of questions by Neeraj. Should one stick with, okay, sorry, I already took that. Shall we animate and present it? Do you think this will impress? um, you know so when you're presenting, yes, you can. When you saying animate, are you saying maybe some motion graphic, something like that? And I'm not really sure what is meant, but I think I got the message that if you want to maybe create a video, some people say, why don't I create a video? Why do I need a deck? And stuff like that. The thing with video is that it may not, it can, first you still need to storyboard it, right? Then you can create a video out of it. First you still need the visuals and everything, then you can make a video out of it. And also showing your product video helps when you're presenting. But if you're sending it out on an email, that time you don't have an option to embed. A lot of times, if even if you embed on a PDF, for example, it will open up in a YouTube, and then the whole attention will go away. So I would say, you can still do both, but don't avoid doing a pitch deck, because that will still, be passed down from people to people. Somebody who's really interested in investing in you will just, want to know a little bit more, that you can answer using a pitch deck, but not really a video. A video obviously is costly too, so that's another factor. So think about that when you're considering that. How much does it cost, Ashok? Happy to talk on that if you can email me. I mean, it varies, right? So for us, we are actually doing it for a living, so we are a professional agency. But I mean, if you go to a sort of a freelancer, who would just design it, it depends, right? If you want to just get it designed, if you want to get the story done, so just think about that when you're going out. It can start from something like 20,000, and believe me, it goes till even 3 lakh, 3.5 lakh rupees. I'm just giving you a range. I'll send my email out. Happy to answer those questions there. So Manoj, if you can just put my LinkedIn and email ID, that'll be great. Is it possible that we can get this? I won't be able to share this Excel with the data, of course. But I gave you the idea that put one column with the key message and the other column with what content that goes. Any preferred colors to be used? I mean, it depends. What product you have. For a B2B product, of whites, and this was a doctor's related product, so the colors were according to that. A lot of other colors I showed before, the magenta and black for that Niviro, it just went with their brand. So it all depends on the brand. Okay, so going forward, there are actually a couple more questions. Let me take that too. How much does the pitch deck non-presenting we have emotional context versus logical context? Add your thoughts for the presenting deck as well. So Neeraj, another good question, I think. So how much does the pitch deck have emotional context versus logical? I think it doesn't have to necessarily emotional, but the thing is, the story is a mix of both emotional and logical. It's not that I'm saying things that are purely emotional. I'm just relating them, by giving them an example of a person, like, I'm relating them. Maybe, depends on the product too. For that passion incubator product, Miviro, of course, it was a little emotional, because, that is something easy for anybody to relate to. But I would say that, it has to go hand in hand. Emotional, maybe not, but yes, uh, putting some empathy and giving the right examples, that's what I meant by creating a story. And even when you're presenting, the emotions comes out by what you're presenting, how you're saying things. So I won't say put a lot of stress on emotion. Maybe when a founder is talking about their personal story, they can talk about a little bit emotions there. But unless the product requires you to, I won't say talk too much about emotions. But talk about the story. What is the underlying theme? That is different than just emotions. What changes one has to do in their pitch deck after COVID-19 pandemic? Depends on the product. if your product is hugely impacted right now, and the traction will only come after the pandemic ends, which we are all praying ends soon. It all depends on that. So I mean, if you want to address that, you can, but don't try to. A lot of times people try to say, okay, because of COVID, now this product has become relevant. So what happens is, if you talk that, then it's a double-edged sword. People will say, okay, what after the COVID ends, right? How relevant is that? So I don't think change a lot. The pitch decks change a lot just because of COVID. But yes, if you are creating a product whose relevance may start after the pandemic, then you can address that. Like in travel, for example, right? Travel industry is one of the biggest, has got the biggest hit, right, because of COVID. So if you're creating anything in COVID, in travel, a pitch deck, you can probably say, stuff like, and in history also proves that travel actually bounced back. It was the fastest to bounce back after the World War, right? So, stuff like that, you can talk that, okay, travel is going to bounce back and we are prepared for that. While it comes back, this is what we are making, stuff like that. So that the narrative change. It's not that every pitch deck will change as for that. So a lot of pitch decks that we did in the last 15 months were relevant for COVID. So, I mean, it actually helped. Okay. So when I was saying that, okay, so this is the design fonts. I mean, there are a few fonts out there, but I like these ones. These are Google fonts, they're easily available. If you want to use them, please feel free. I usually like, Monstrat is one of my favorites. So for anything to do with tech and all, I try to use that. The one that you see on the headline for our own brand is, DF display. So you can take a note of that. These are all Google fonts, and they're available out there. So I was talking about, the flow and the must-have slides. Of course, you need the title, and then the problem and opportunity. Whether you do it in 1 slide, 2 slide, 3 slide, depends on the problem. But of course, talk about the problem or the opportunity. The value proposition when you introduce your brand, right? What is that one line, the elevator pitch? That slide definitely add. USPs is how you are different, and address that in the deck. Business model, of course, how you're going to make money is an important one to put. GTM, go to market, how you're going to acquire customers. Competition, I touched upon. Team, of course, is good. Everybody should have a team slide, because I'm not saying put it right in the front, but when you're presenting, if you have relevant experience, you can, but otherwise it usually stays towards the end, and that's fine. And of course, the financials, some basic financials, talking about the projections and how you're going to use the fund. So these are, at least at your, for students who are creating a pitch deck, try to incorporate these. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's about from my end, what I had to show and talk about. Happy to take now the questions. I'm looking at them right now. Just a second. Rachna, I won't be able to share the slides. Of course, I mean, this is done in good trust that, because a lot of times these are slides, even though we have permission to share, but won't be able to share all the slides, but I'm happy to share a few slides. You can email me, I'll just reply to that. Font slide, just a second, Shweta. I'm happy to do that. This one here. Yeah. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'm reading, if there are any questions else that are remaining. I think most of them I've answered.
Yeah, sir. I think you have answered most of them.
Okay, good then.
Anyways,
Awesome.
Yogi sir, are you here?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Anyways, sir. Thank you for the great session, sir. That session was really nice, and I think most of the participants were looking forward for this session, as they have a upcoming pitch deck competition. So this recording will be published in YouTube and also in our website. Once it is
Sure.
published, you will get a notification.
Sure.
And thank you so much for this amazing session, sir. We are looking forward to meet again. And thank you so much
Absolutely.
for coming here. Thank you, participants, for attending this session. And we have a next session. We will announce then when is the next session. And good luck, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And, good luck for the pitch. I hope this helps you create a really good pitch deck for your competition, and any entrepreneurs who've joined, for them to raise funds or, just communicate that their key message. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. You can follow Mr. Chetan on the LinkedIn. I have already shared the link. Thank you,
Sure.
everyone. Good day.
Yeah. Good day. Bye.
Bye.